The FGC and the tangentially related content world was set ablaze yesterday with the resulting and shocking conclusion of the Tyler1 versus Ludwig Street Fighter 6 showdown at EVO Vegas 2026. Because leading up to this event, after it was announced 2 months ago, all bets were on Tyler1 here because this man was putting in the grind. We can see clips of him actually reaching 1600 MR in Street Fighter 6, which is a decently high rank, high master, as you can see right there. And he was streaming hundreds of hours of his practice leading up for this show match, and it resulted in him getting a rank that placed him officially in the top 4% of all players worldwide for Street Fighter 6, which is no small feat. He's actually been on the grind learning this game ever since he picked it up for the AT&T Annihilator Cup not too long ago. And meanwhile, Ludwig was radio silent. I mean, here's me even harassing Ludwig and getting a little ratio off on him. They were having some banter leading up to the set where Slime was even saying that he would take out Tyler1 in a money match, and Ludwig here was hyping up Slime versus Tyler1, and I'm like, hey man, you need to boot up the game. Please boot up the game. I got a little ratio going there. Well, to my surprise, he apparently was booting up the game, because with some scouting efforts, it was discovered that he had a secret JP account, and Tyler1 was scoping out the competition. So maybe Ludwig was actually grinding in silence and trying to prepare a specific counter pick for Tyler1. But then when the match actually went down and we got to see the pick in the gameplay, everyone, including myself, was absolutely flabbergasted by what was on the screen, because it was the Marisa pick, and the games went something like this. Safe jump into full combo for the very first round, and it was all downhill from here on out. This is how the set began, and this is how the set finished for an absolute dominating 10-3 finish for Ludwig with Marisa over Tyler1's Guile. So a lot of people might be watching this who are just fans of these content creators and might not know too much about Street Fighter 6 and how this actually came to be. So today I'm going to break down specifically how Ludwig dismantled Tyler1, the strategies he used to beat his Guile, and make it palpable and understandable for people who might not be too familiar with Street Fighter and its mechanics, and also talk a little bit about how having the higher rank is not always indicative exactly of who is going to win in a head-to-head competition, and break down a little bit of the nuance when it comes to the higher rank versus the lower rank, because Ludwig is admittedly a 1300 MR Marisa, much lower rank than the 1600 MR Guile with Tyler1. So let's get on into it and break down exactly how Ludwig dismantled Tyler1 in the set. So to understand this matchup, first we got to understand a little bit about Tyler1's character choice. He's playing Guile, and Guile is known for two things and two things only. He throws Sonic Boom, a projectile that requires him to charge, meaning he has to hold back for about 1 second before he can press forward and a punch to throw the Sonic Boom projectile, which, you know, can be pretty effective because you can throw a bunch of them back to back and hit people from full screen and keep throwing these projectiles and be really annoying. It's limited because he has to hold back, so he can't walk around and do it. He has to hold back or down back for 1 second before he can throw one, then charge for 1 more second to throw a second one. Then that pairs synergistically with, of course, his flash kick anti-air. This has to be holding down for 1 second, approximately 1 second, then you press up and a kick button, or any attack button, really, with the case of his control scheme. We'll get into that shortly. And so basically the idea being, if people get annoyed with you throwing projectiles and they want to jump at you, eventually you just throw your flash kick. So the secret with Guile is, when do you try to jump over the projectiles to get in and hit him versus when does he actually anti-air you? And that tension basically forms the entire game plan for Guile in Street Fighter 6. There's a bit more nuance with this, because not only is Tyler1 playing Guile, he's playing modern Guile. If you don't know how that works, in Street Fighter 6, there's two control schemes. You have modern and classic. Classic is your typical way of playing Street Fighter, which has been done for about half a millennia at this point, so for a very long time. Where modern is a new control scheme introduced in Street Fighter 6, and it has a couple of advantages and also a couple of disadvantages. With modern, instead of having 6 different attack buttons, you have 3 attack buttons, and you actually have less access to certain moves or certain attacks that you do not have access to in modern. The trade-off being, though, you don't have to do the motion inputs to access the special moves or supers. So for example, normally flash kick is hold down for 1 second, then up and kick. With Modern, I just need to hold down for 1 second and then press the special button. Same thing with Sonic Boom. I don't normally have to hold back, then press forward and punch simultaneously. I just need to hold back for 1 second, then tap the special button and get it. And other characters have more complex motions as well, including like super motions, which usually involve like double quarter circles or extra motions. With that, you just have to press the direction and the heavy button and the special input. One button input to give you access to your supers. So because of that, you end up getting really powerful techniques with the press of one button. And what this means in practice is, normally when you're executing things, you have time to actually think about what you're doing. But because you can just do things like your supers with one button, you can react to things. These supers are invincible and can blow through attacks. So you can do them very quick on reaction to things that normally humans would mess up. Because to do that super, for example, I normally have to like walk back and forth and press an attack button. And I can potentially mess up that input and get hit during that time and not get my super to come out. So Modern avoids that entirely, including things, of course, like especially his OD flash kick. This is fully invincible, costs 2 bars of the drive gauge, the green bar you see at the top, and can just blow through any attack. So he has reactions to everything. He throws sonic booms and annoys you. Then as soon as you jump, he either does the regular flash kick, or if you try to approach him with anything else, he just blows through it with the OD flash kick. On top of that, he also has modern auto combos. You can get full combos by holding the auto button, kind of like a shift key on your keyboard that affects your inputs, that modifies your next input. And then I can just mash light punch here and it'll give me a combo. Mash the medium attack button, it gives me a combo. And mash the heavy attack button, it gives him a combo. So you don't have to think about timing your moves or anything. You can just do these auto combos and get them whenever you make contact. And it even like determines if they're hitting or not, because if they're blocking the attacks, normally you don't want to go into all your moves if they're blocking, because if I go into flash kick when they block it, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna get punished for it. But auto combos will see, hey, they're blocking. Let me not go into flash kick or the unsafe ender. So it saves you some meter as well and makes you safe. So, but if they get hit, you get a full combo. The downside is everything does reduce damage, right? So you're gonna see this come into play in the set. A normal flash kick here, or like a rather a heavy flash kick here, you got 1400 damage on that. But if I instead do the auto somersault here, it's only 880. And same thing with the supers. It scales the damage. The auto combos do less damage, and the modern input special moves do less damage as well. So generally, if you're relying on modern, you're going to do less damage as a whole. But that's the main game plan with Tyler1. He's going to be mashing auto combos to get his damage for the most part. And then he's going to do blast sign of booms to zone and do flash kick to anti-air. That's the main genesis of Tyler1's strategy. So let's talk about how Ludwig used Marisa to counter Tyler1. Everyone expected Ludwig to potentially play Honda, which he's shown in the past, or JP, which he planted that fake account, which was actually his friend Slime playing on that account instead. But he showed up with a surprise pick, Marisa. And Marisa is a brawler in Street Fighter 6. She's slow, but she does a ton of damage if she gets the right hit. She can do these massive combos that can kill the opponent from very few openings. And she has a lot of ways to approach the opponent and have armor to blow through their attack. So she's a bit of a brawler with armor to get through and to beat up people trying to stop her from approaching. A very tanky character. And one of the main things that was employed was this Gladius right here, this big punch here. Now on its own, it's just pretty much a solid kind of poke tool. You can just throw it out in neutral, and if it hits the opponent, it knocks them down. And it's going to be safe on block, meaning if they block it, they're not going to be able to hit you in return, right? So you can kind of throw this out and it'll be safe, and it can be like a good spacing tool to outrange your opponent. But it gets a lot more interesting than that, because Gladius has armor. Combining Gladius with the armor and this sequence specifically is where the chaos begins, and where we can see how this starts to really terrorize Tyler1 in this set. So let's go ahead and talk about this. If I do stand medium punch, this is alone a really amazing poke tool, the stand medium punch. Huge range, very fast. It'll clip people all the time on accident. You can press medium punch again to get a second hit, and then the mini game begins. So if I do stand medium punch into the Gladius, this is pretty interesting, because if you try to mash after, it's going to hit you. Like, this leaves no small gap here where you can actually interrupt it. So that is actually pretty powerful on its own. And if you block all the hits, like I mentioned before, this is just safe. He can't really hit you after. So you can kind of just do this, and you can't interrupt with buttons. What it does is if you try to interrupt, you're probably going to miss your move, and they're just going to hit you again. So a lot of beginner players get tripped up by this mini game, and they don't know how to deal with it at all, and they can keep the momentum going in Marisa's favor. If you charge, like I mentioned before, it does have armor as well. So it can do things like interrupt buttons. But if you choose not to press anything, even more so, if they charge it all the way, it ends up being plus on block, meaning it's Marisa's turn to move first again. So even if you do try to take your turn back after blocking the charged Gladius, they can just do stand medium punch again, man. Or just like a crouch medium punch. It keeps the turn going in Marisa's favor. Like, you're going to be in a bad spot. Here in the corner, you can see if they block the charge one, just do it again. And it's kind of consequence-free action. You need to deal with the Gladius before they get the plus frames. So you might be thinking, okay, can't be interrupted by buttons. But what you see with Tyler1 and his modern Guile is he likes to react to things with that OD flash kick. So like I mentioned before, this is totally invincible. If I try to continue my moves here and there's any gaps, he's going to go ahead and get that modern flash kick in between. And the thing about this, which is very interesting, is that the modern flash kick is pretty powerful and in a very special way, in that you don't lose your ability to mash it compared to a normal flash kick. So let me explain what I mean. Okay, so in this recording, I'm gonna have Marisa do that stand medium punch to Gladius string that we saw Ludwig abusing a lot. And normally, if I try to interrupt this, there's no gap between the two stand medium punches, but there is a gap between the actual Gladius. So if I actually interrupt in that part with an OD flash kick, I can get it in between and interrupt. It will interrupt. However, if I try to burn this early and I lose my charge, I only get one chance every second to try to activate this flash kick. So if I don't find the gap, I can't just mash this move out and get it whenever the gap appears. I have one chance to pull off the OD flash kick to interrupt a perceived gap. However, modern is interesting in that it doesn't apply. If you look at my inputs on the left screen, you're gonna see me hold auto and then mash the special button, the orange button there. And the way modern works is, yes, you do need to be holding your charge for at least 1 second to access the flash kick. But if I just hold down the entire time, as soon as I start blocking, I can just keep mashing auto and flash kick and then get the gap to interrupt with the flash kick at any point. I don't have to have timing. I just have to have charge. On Classic, you will lose your charge and not be able to reversal flash kick. On Modern, it saves this opportunity for whenever the opponent leaves any gap and you get the flash kick immediately. Tyler1 abuses this non-stop against a lot of opponents, and normally with Guile players, they have to pick and choose when to reversal. With Modern, any gap, OD will come out. You can bait that by stopping your offense preemptively, but it makes it so that it's really hard to keep your offensive momentum. So it's a huge plus to Tyler's bag of tricks that he employs that. But that's where the mini game with Marisa comes back into play. So we showed here how this Gladius string will just get interrupted by the OD flash kick, which we know Tyler1 is going to be mashing. However, it also breaks even the charge Gladius. We saw that charge Gladius has 1 hit of armor. It can interrupt you if you press a button, but it doesn't have multiple hits. And the OD flash kick hits multiple times. So you can't just charge this. But she has meter and OD moves as well, which enhance the properties. And there you go. This is where OD Gladius comes into play. If you try to interrupt with your invincible move, Marisa can instead opt for using the OD Gladius instead, armor through the flash kick, and then get a full combo punish when you whip the flash kick. And we saw this time and time again from Ludwig, which completely destroyed Tyler1's mashing flash kick strategy. And we have the clips to prove it. So here's an example of Ludwig getting in there. He's using stand medium punch to Gladius. Respect from Tyler. He tries to challenge there, and no, sir. You can see the mix-up happening here in real time, right? Like, he doesn't want to challenge on the first Gladius because he could potentially get clipped there. But on the second one, he tries to get through, and that OD just armors straight through the reaction into the gap and then gives Ludwig the punish to give him the game. So we can see that being a big pain for Tyler1 right there. We can also see, here's another one. You know, we mentioned doing standing medium punch into Gladius a bunch of times. He's harassing with it a bunch here. But potentially, he can also just do nothing, man. So you might want to then interrupt the Gladius with the invincible super. What if he just does stand medium punch into nothing? There's layers to this. He doesn't have to go into the Gladius, and you can have a fully invincible option like the super, which would actually beat that option, but he can do nothing. So let me go ahead and show you how that actually works here. So, you know, he did adapt here, did Tyler1 by going instead for his super, which uses the bar in the bottom left and right here. If I go for a Gladius here, this super is going to interrupt because they break armor. Even if I go for the OD, that's going to interrupt. But Marisa has one more trick up their sleeve, which is doing nothing. Oh, that doesn't work when they're not in burnout. Interesting. That'd be a guaranteed option when they're in burnout. But here, if they're not in burnout, doing nothing, safe. The reason being is that this move, this target combo, is actually punishable if they don't cancel. It's -8, which means 8 frame moves or moves that are that fast or faster will punish it. So if I go for this target combo and I don't press anything and he presses a jab, it's gonna punish. And with modern combos with Tyler1, he can mash the auto combo, get a full combo punish, and do a decent amount of damage. But once again, the mind game comes into play of what if I go into the charge Gladius, because that's why you're incentivized to not press buttons. So you can see the mini game just kind of evolving here, where it just constantly keeps them on their toes. And Gladius is a huge part of that, including doing it at range here. Tyler1 also like to just kind of sit here and then do this reaction flash kick while holding neutral. So Tyler1 would just look for any sort of movement like that and then try to flash kick through. And at any point, if you try to go for that, he could be just doing spaced out Gladius, interrupt, armor through, and get a full combo punish. So the armor, Gladius, and the stand medium punch in tandem with each other gave Tyler1 a lot of grief in this set. And here's another clip from the set. We're going to see the stand medium punch to OD, but it did break this time. So what happened there? There is counterplay to this. And then we're going to see the next evolution. We're going to get into that shortly, that Superman punch. Big one right there. But what happened here? We can see here, it seems like Tyler found an answer to the OD Gladius, and that is because Gladius only has 2 frames of armor, not 3. So potentially you can interrupt those strings by doing jab into the flash kick. There is counterplay to this, so let me break down a little bit of Gladius counterplay. So there is counterplay, which is you can do things like maybe do button into OD flash kick to get 3 hits out, because the OD Gladius can only absorb 2 hits. Flash kick has 2 hits on its own, and then the jab adds the 3rd. So doing an interruption like that is potentially an option if you see her charging up. But that's still unreliable, because if Marisa instead just did a basic string and you just autopiloted the jab, you would get counter hit instead. So it's kind of a guessing game. Really, what you're supposed to do in response to this is attempt a perfect parry. There is a gap here. You're supposed to try to time the parry in order to interrupt this to see if you can see when they release the punch. And that perfect parry will give you a combo opening. This doesn't do much damage, but you can potentially get in there and do an auto combo, get something going. So that is a pretty safe option to deal with it. And if you don't get the perfect parry, the worst thing that happens is you absorb the attack. It's not a big deal, but that is one potential counterplay. The other thing is, all of these Gladiuses have one common weakness. They don't have armor around their feet. A lot of what Ludwig was doing was going around pressing Gladius in neutral as well, because it could even potentially absorb like sonic booms and things like that. But you got to be on your toes and go for the lows a lot more against Marisa. Even the OD version will lose as well to going low, so that's a pretty consistent option. Also, you could, if you're close enough, you can of course go for a grab. It's a little dangerous, but grabs do beat this. They do not have ability to go through grabs. And also one other option, flash kick as late as possible. The OD version, all the versions run out of armor on the very late frames. So even though it would absorb all these hits, it eventually does lose armor right before it attacks. So if you wait to the very last second, you can potentially flash kick, but if you do it too early, you're going to pay the price. So definitely requires some matchup knowledge and finesse, but it's possible to do that. But Tyler1 unfortunately did not have that timing in practice. We also saw one other key move from Ludwig. this big punch here. This was kind of a big turnaround also. Tyler using his modern reactions to try to throw out a completely invincible super, but Marisa just punches right through it. So what's going on there? This is another tool that kind of completes the picture of Marisa versus Guile. So let's break that one down. So this move is Marisa's Superman punch, and she flies in the air and approaches you, and is actually plus on block if it connects. And what that means, like I mentioned before, is that she can press buttons before you can. So if she makes you block this, she can go ahead and loop back into that standing medium punch minigame into the Gladius. If you try to mash after, she's just going to hit you for your troubles. And if you block it, you're back in that same mix, back where we started last time talking about this whole medium punch into Gladius. And the reason why this move is good is because, of course, Guile players want to throw their sonic booms. But if you get predictable with it, it can either armor through or just completely phase through projectiles. Meaning you can't just throw your sonic booms without thinking about it. She has a lot of ways to make you think. Even if she doesn't land it, even just blocking it is dangerous against her because she can start pressuring you right after. Now, of course, once again, the game plan here is to anti-air. So if they get predictable with their approach with the Superman punch, you can of course just flash kick it. It does have the ability to be anti-air with flash kick. Weird things can happen. It has a little bit of armor on startup, so potentially they can armor through in the earlier parts of it. It's not likely to happen, but interactions like this can occur. But for the most part, it's just a check. You need to not autopilot throw your sonic booms and look for the Superman punch to anti-air, or, you know, be on your toes about that. So he has ways to make you think twice about throwing sonic boom, and it does a lot of mental damage to the Guile players who can no longer spam their sonic booms. And you can see here's some interactions where Ludwig is using this very effectively, because Tyler1, he wants to throw these booms over and over. He properly flash kicked that one. He waited. He halted in his boom patterns right there to get the anti-air. But you see Ludwig, he threw one too many projectiles, landed that Superman punch. He got in. That trade was good for him. And one last Superman punch to do it. If Tyler1, instead of throwing this last projectile here, just had a little bit more restraint and just waited, he's in the position with the charge to flash kick. He definitely could have instead waited here and got the final flash kick to win the game. Instead, he threw the sonic boom. So really strong tool from Marisa to get Guile players thinking twice. Another key example of the tech that Ludwig is deploying to break down Tyler1 was seen in this clip here. He's going to get this light knockdown and then drive rush in and block. Baited. Tyler1 likes to react to things with that OD flash kick, and Ludwig was using his reactions against him. So let's explain a little bit about what's happening here from this one moment and explain why Tyler got baited there. So Ludwig went for this basic light combo from his jab. He saw that it connected and went to this launcher combo for the knockdown and approached with a drive rush. This drive rush is what happens out of parry. You can dash forward and fly at the opponent while you're turning green. It costs a bar to activate, and it's really powerful because all of your moves are powered up out of it. They do more hit stun and block stun, meaning if this hits, you get better combos, and if they block it, they take more pressure. It enhances your pressure and combo starters for the next move coming out of it before you start. So if you get a knockdown, a super common strategy in this game is to drive rush in to start your offense, because it's going to make that move really threatening from the opponent. People also like to just do it in neutral randomly as a surprise, which can happen really fast. But of course, one good thing about Modern is that you have perfect reactions. So if you try to approach a Modern Guile player like Tyler1 with that surprise drive rush in neutral, it's so easy for him to see you turn green and then just do flash kick out of it, which is going to pretty much interrupt almost any option you do from this drive rush. If they weren't going to do that, instead you can get in and potentially get a full combo. So they're really incentivized to just react to the flash kick. Ludwig plays with those reactions like a fiddle in a lot of these situations because Tyler likes to see people approach with the green and then wake up flash kick, stop the offense, of course. But what if you instead drive rush and block, which we saw used a ton of times successfully by Ludwig? He would get these knockdowns, drive rush in, and purposely block. And when Marisa hits you, you die, man. Like, it's very painful to eat a full combo for Marisa. She does a ton of damage. So these baits were massive for Ludwig and gave him tons of openings to start his offense, and Tyler frequently fell for the bait. And eventually he did get conditioned to block, and Ludwig took advantage of that and forced him instead to take the mix. You got to employ the risk reward and mix up your options. Eventually he did go for things like going for the pressure once Tyler1 finally understood he couldn't flash kick every single time he saw the drive rush. But okay, you heard a phrase called safe jump uttered at the beginning of this breakdown, and we're going to see exactly how Ludwig used safe jumps to destroy Tyler. This is probably the biggest knowledge check that occurred throughout the entire set and completely ate Tyler alive. So here's a sequence here. Ludwig is going to get Tyler into the corner. And you're going to see here, drive rush, heavy punch for the combo starter. OD launcher here, heavy punch, jump in, and then Tyler just eats it. He dies. He's eating these safe jumps over and over. So let me explain what a safe jump is, why they're so good, and why Tyler1 failed this knowledge check here and it could not adapt. And this was maybe the biggest weakness he had in this entire set. So Ludwig basically had two main combos he would go for if they weren't going to lead into a full super to kill. And in the corner, we saw this one used repeatedly. He would find a way to route into this OD launcher, get the knockdown, and then he would do this charge heavy punch into heavy punch. This move here. This is a very interesting combo because it's actually sacrificing a lot of damage that he could get here. Like, he could do more damage in this combo, but he's purposely sacrificing damage for the situation he gets after going for this combo, because this combo sets up something called a safe jump. A safe jump is a sequence where if you jump at the opponent, they are forced to block or pay the consequences. Remember, we talked about normally with Guile, if you jump at him and he has charge, he's just going to anti-air you with that flash kick. He's going to hit you out of the air with that, and it's very effective at doing that. However, you can't do that in every situation. So let me show you once again the situation here. Here, I can do a jump in, and if they block the jump in, I can get pressure because I'm getting in on them and I can force them to take a guess, or I can maybe potentially go for something like a grab here and keep them guessing on the pressure. On the other hand, if they don't block, I can get a full combo. It's going to be a jump in starting a combo, so they want to block. But you might be thinking, why not just do the anti-air flash kick or try to blow through it with your invincible reversal? And well, that's because it also blocks the reversal flash kick. A safe jump covers any option on wake up except for blocking. If they try to wake up with a button as well, they're just going to get hit also and lead into a full combo for the opponent. So it is safe to wake up buttons, it beats wake up reversals, and it forces the opponent to block or pay the consequences. Tyler1's problem here is that he does not understand how to stop going for charge flash kick in order to block. Time and time again, Tyler's response to seeing this safe jump situation right here would be to hold down back and to not press any buttons whatsoever because he doesn't want to lose his charge for his flash kick. So we would see this knockdown happen right here. And he would just eat the jump in, and Ludwig would then go for full combos every single time. And this situation could just loop forever. If this man is not willing to block, he can just loop over and over. So let's go ahead and look at another example of him using this. So here's Ludwig getting the stand medium punch, confirm into the OD launcher, charge heavy punch knockdown, safe jump, and Tyler1 is just holding down back again into the massive combo here. And he actually dropped the combo here, but this could actually kill. Let me explain to you how this would actually kill if this would have worked. This would have been the dream sequence for Ludwig. So this was the sequence Ludwig was trying to go for, and look at how much damage happens when you don't block the safe jump. You're dead. It was literally a two-touch sequence because it was so hyper-optimized, because there's a fundamental flaw in Tyler1, and that is when he plays, all he's trying to do is keep the down charge so that he can do flash kick, even when he is eating a jump in. With a jump in, you cannot hold down charge to use the flash kick. What you have to do instead is you have to block by holding back. And the reason why he doesn't want to do that is because holding down is the only way he can access this very powerful reversal. He uses this as his defense entirely, but the safe jump forces you to hold back and sacrifice your down charge so that you can't do a flash kick, which is why safe jumps are so powerful, especially against charge characters like Guile. It forces them to then block the jump in, and the next guess, they will not have access to this invincible normal. They will have to defend without it. It eliminates one of his best defensive options. But Tyler1 doesn't understand this, and so he literally just would hold down back and eat a jump into a full 60% combo for like more than half his health over and over and over. This is the biggest fundamental flaw in his understanding of the game, is that you need to block the jump in standing. It was rather shocking to see this in action. Like, he has to block the standing or else he loses, and he failed that knowledge check over and over and over again, and Ludwig got so much damage out of that. So not only was he able to access the specific safe jump sequence in the corner, that combo I showed you earlier with the heavy punch arc combo, it required us to be in the corner. Here, you can do it mid-screen as well. So see this sequence here? He found another exploit here, right? Oh, he looped it a couple times. Finally, a block from Tyler1, but then he let the flash kick rip, and that's going to be all she wrote. Kind of a flub there from Ludwig on the kill combo, but nothing that he can't clean up there. So this is another safe jump sequence that he was setting up here. Similar starter, the medium punch charter combo into the OD launcher, but in the mid-screen, you're going to use down forward heavy punch from Marisa there to start the combo sequence, and that is interesting because it leaves you at a timing for a safe jump. So you can see here, once again, this leaves you at the magic number for safe jumps for the Street Fighter nerds, plus 42. That's the advantage you need for safe jumps against most of the cast. Once again, he could do a lot more damage here by doing other combo enders, but he sacrifices damage again for the positioning with the down forward heavy punch as the ender. And you're going to see once again, when he goes here instead for the jump in, it's going to cause a lot of trouble. Cross up. So even if he goes for the wake up flash kick here, it's going to be blocked. You can't do that. On top of this, this has another layer, and that if you sit here and take this jump in, you're going to end up in a situation where you have to block left or right. So this is called a cross-up when you jump over someone's head. Normally in Street Fighter, you block by walking away from the opponent. So if your opponent's on the right, you walk to the left. If your opponent's on the left, you walk to the right. That's how you block them. But what if they jump over your head last second, man? Where do you block? Well, you're going to have to alter the way you block. Because Marisa's jumping over their head, you have to go from blocking right to last second blocking left. It can just kind of mix people up if you're not used to that when they jump over their head like that. So that's one additional layer that was mixing up Tyler1 in that situation. But on top of that, for some reason, Tyler1 also never does back roll. Back roll is an option where if you get knocked down and you press any two buttons on the controller, you roll away from the opponent. It's really useful because it gives you a way to alleviate pressure. The downside is you move towards the corner faster, which is bad for positioning long term, but you can get away from these cross-up scenarios. Because look, now if I do this jump in, I stay in front, which could be preferable in a lot of situations. It's still a safe jump. The timing is still the same. So even if you back rolled, you're still going to hold that. But Tyler1 clearly doesn't understand what a back roll is, so that let him just loop this situation over and over mid-screen and just kind of repeat this process, and he could potentially just kind of win a game just by doing this over and over. And yeah, Tyler1 just does not know what's happening here, unfortunately for him. And the biggest takeaway with the differences between these two players and what Ludwig used with his advantage to win is just the combo diff, man. Tyler1 is using auto combos all over the place, which do very little damage, and his combo optimization is not very good. But look at how much damage Ludwig does from a single opening. He just needs to land that jump in. He gets this combo. This time, he's not going to go for the safe jump. He's going to go for the kill to spend his level 3. Ludwig always saved his super meter to cash out for level 3s. He didn't use a single other super the entire set. Meanwhile, Tyler1 is using a lot of level 1s because his auto combos automatically spend level 1, and they just tickle Marisa. Ludwig just waits for the right moment to kill in one touch, and then he does it, and the damage output is just absolutely astronomically higher for Ludwig. He needs like several interactions less to win. versus Tyler1. Tyler1 is chipping away at Marisa's health bar. Marisa has more health than average, and he's just depleting Tyler1's health bar in one interaction. Guile can do a lot more damage, but Tyler1 does not know how to take advantage of that because he doesn't know the proper combos for these kind of situations. Here's another example of the damage diff, and look how all the pieces kind of come together here. You can see here that Ludwig does the stand medium punch into nothing to bait out the OD flash kick, and look at the punish on this one, man. Look at the combo here. Huge damage on that combo. He goes for a drive rush bait there to bait out a flash kick, but it doesn't work out. He ends up getting burnt out. So in the corner, if you spend all your drive gauge, you no longer have access to those invincible moves, and you also take more pressure on block as well. And if he goes for this thing called a drive impact when you're in the corner, it's an armored move. It blows through your attacks, and if it hits you and pushes you into the wall, they get a free combo. We just saw Tyler1 eat like 60% from Ludwig's combo. This is an opportunity for Tyler to do anything he wants to Ludwig to do the most damage possible. And what do we see? A jump into a very, very little damage combo. He has everything available for him. He has Ludwig on an open platter right here, and he just tickles Marisa. He does no damage whatsoever. Like, this is like pitiful damage in this situation. So it doesn't matter. Like, there's no consequence to whatever Lud does because Tyler1 just does not know the proper combos to do enough damage to make anything actually impactful. However, it is not all doom and gloom. Tyler did get 3 games on a 3-game win streak. So we can analyze how he actually adapted in that situation. So you see here's a good timing on the flash kick. He does do a really late flash kick to avoid the armor for the Gladius there. And in this sequence, he's going to be throwing a lot of sonic booms in a really strong pattern. He's waiting with his down charge to look for the Superman punch. He's also like baiting out the Gladius. He's not running into it. And you see here, he's not just throwing the booms over and over. He's trying to see if that Superman punch is going to come to jump over his fireballs. And once again, last second flash kick through the Gladius. So his timing on interrupting the Gladius became a lot better. However, it was too little too late. Ludwig just upped the ante and kept threatening the Gladius and the Superman punch because Tyler1 just did not do enough damage. So in the end, Ludwig employed a lot of different tactics to beat the crap out of Tyler1. He had more matchup experience. Tyler1 did not know how to deal with Marisa. He did not understand blocking safe jumps. That was key. He had no practice combo and Oki sequences. He had bad meaty timings. He had bad meter management, the damage output diff. And really, in the end, I think Ludwig, mid-set, summed it up best.
Tyler has basically made the game a reaction to jump in and a reaction to pressure on block. He's really good at dealing with that, and that's why Gladius has to beat it out. It's a tough matchup. Like, if he plays it, you know, he can beat me. He just got to learn it. The issue is he has no meaty. He's got no Oki. I don't think he knows what a combo is outside of the auto combos. That last round, that last round, bro, if you just do the Oki for the DI, you win.
Hey, there's a reason you stayed anonymous and picked his biggest counter.
And you know what? Facts to everyone involved. Literally word for word from both these competitors, they were all completely true. 100% factual analysis from Ludwig. No combos, no Oki, doesn't know the matchup. But Tyler1 has a point. He picked his biggest counter and he hid what he was planning. So in the end, Ludwig was far more prepared for the encounter and showed a much higher grasp of understanding the certain fundamentals of Street Fighter. But there's something to be said about the specific way Ludwig went about planning this event. He did hide his pick. He purposely bamboozled Tyler1 by planting the false flag of him having a JP and really had Slime play JP in his stead on stream while he sat there pretending to play the character and really hid his training sessions from Tyler1. So let's talk about how did Ludwig, a self-admitted 1300 MR Marisa, beat a 1600 MR ranked Guile in Tyler1? How did the lower ranked player win this impossible match in a long set format? Let's talk a little bit about what it means to play across these different rank levels. Does the rank mean nothing? Not exactly. Let's take a look at some of the stats, right? This is Tyler1's account. Let's look at what Tyler1 actually put up. He fell below master rank when I last checked, but or high master at 1579 MR. But he put the grind in, 275 hours in ranked mode. He was streaming nonstop. He was going ham. Far less hours in custom room and practice, but a lot of red there on the screen, which shows how he spent his time. And going into this, you know, we thought that Ludwig wasn't really doing that same grind. Let's take a look at his specific matchups as well. And we see here JP was his worst matchup at 21.88%, 96 battles played. That's a really bad win rate. So JP as a counter pick made sense. Maybe that's why they went with the false flag of planting the idea that Ludwig was going to go with the JP. However, there was one matchup that Tyler1 played worse than JP, and that was Marisa. The same exact win rate percent, 21.88% win rate for both characters, but he has only 32 battles with Marisa. That's less than half what he has, almost basically a third of what he has with JP. Perfectly, I don't understand how the fractions work out so perfectly. Literally the exact same win rate, but even less experience. So seeing this, it was a smart decision to go with Marisa because Marisa does give Guile players a hard time. That is true. We've even seen Tyler1's coach, Knuckledew, one of the best Guile players of all time, struggle with Marisa's that he would be objectively considered by everyone to be stronger than, but it has happened. However, let's compare again Tyler1's grind, who was so publicly prolific with how he was putting in the work, compared to Ludwig, who everybody, like myself, assumed was just slacking off coming up for this exhibition. He revealed his secret Smurf account was Lil Tonka L, and it turns out Ludwig has more hours, about 50 more hours total in-game than Tyler1. 200 hours in ranked, 160 hours in practice. And here you can start to see the difference here. Look at this pie chart. Please pay attention. Look at all the red for the ranked matches versus the white versus Ludwig. 200 hours in ranked, that's nothing to scoff at. Oh, he's in the chat right now since my numbers are way off. There might be more than this one. This is nothing to scoff at. Your time can be much more effectively spent going into training mode, specifically practicing for the counters to your opponent. I respect Lil Tonka or Big Tonka T's grind here. You have to put in the reps. You absolutely have to test your theories in the actual heat of the moment in actual battle in order to have that experience, to adapt to real opponents, and to get that muscle memory and to be able to deal with the stress of a live match. But Tyler is known for one and dunning his opponents. If someone beats him in a 1-2 set, he immediately quits the match. If they beat him too frequently, he will block them. If they play a character matchup he doesn't prefer playing, he will block them. So his rank was 1600 MR. You could argue there's a bit of curation and a bit of gaming of the system outside of the actual gameplay mode that helped inflate his rank a little bit. And I do agree with that to a small degree. I think his rank is slightly inflated because of what he did, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think what we learned here is that coming prepared with a specific plan is far more effective for taking down an opponent player. And, Ludwig mentioned that he was trained up by a specific player. We look at his battles also in the his overall battles. Look how many matches he played. His #1 most played match was Guile at 222 battles. He focused specifically on the Guile matchup, whereas on the other hand, Tyler only had 30 against Marisa. He teamed up with Zach Henke, who is like the encyclopedia when it comes to Marisa, to specifically train this counter pick to counter Tyler's modern Guile. And in the gameplay itself, we can see the techniques employed specifically not only to beat Guile, but to beat Tyler1's Guile. And this is where it has to be said that a lot of people treat rank and those numbers like your experience bar in a RPG or like in Pokemon. Like if you are level 48, you are stronger than whatever Pokemon's at level 32. It's just a fact. Your stat points go up and you have improved. When in reality, your skill in a fighting game is a lot more like a spider chart. There's so many different areas where you could actually level up and employ skill, and not all players are well-rounded. I would argue Tyler1 is not a well-rounded player at all. He has severe fundamental misunderstandings of the game. What he has really strong is his concept of timing with Sonic Boom and anti-air flash kick, and his idea of disrupting pressure and his reactions with modern tools like the modern supers and the modern flash kick. Extraordinarily strong. Really, really strong attributes there. However, his matchup knowledge is severely lacking, and because those attributes he had were so strong, he was actually able to avoid being put into situations by many players where he had to understand how to deal with these situations. He didn't have to understand to get to 1600 MR how to deal with safe jump pressure and how to block them, because he would just beat most players before that even became a problem. Ludwig, on the other hand, put all of his stat points and all of his training to specifically counter Tyler1. And I think in the end, we've learned something. You don't have to be the better player, I'm doing air quotes here, overall to beat a specific opponent. You can train to find the Achilles heel of your opponent to take them down specifically, even if overall they can beat more players than you can. I would still argue that if you take the entire world of competition, Tyler1 will probably beat more players on average than Ludwig because his style shuts down so many people before they even understand what's going on. However, Ludwig has a more solid foundation to build upon and can specifically beat Tyler1 as well. So I think the ranks are still pretty accurate. Lud is a 1300 MR Marisa, and you know, Tyler1 is a peak 1600 MR Guile. That's just how it is. But at those more mid-level ranks, there's still plenty of fundamental flaws in their skill level. And finding those specific counters becomes more and more difficult as you improve. So at the top level, people become more and more well-rounded. But you have to understand that between like every 100 MR is an exponential gap in skill level. So the difference between like a 2000 MR and a 2100 MR player could be humongous. Whereas the gap between 1300 and 1600 is not as big, even though it's a different level of points. And in the end, you just have to train for the opponent in front of you. And it's not about your overall level. It's about, can you find the weakness and take down who you have to take down when it's the lights are at their brightest. And in the end, I think Ludwig summed it up best here. A lot of us need to sign the apology form, myself included, because I thought he was going to get washed. I wanted to see him train on stream. I did. The FGC convinced me he didn't train. I might have led that propaganda. I thought it was going to be a wash, man. I thought he would put no effort into this, but he came prepared with the precision strategy to dissect Tyler1 and got the job done, and he did the most FGC thing possible by saving that shit for Nationals. And that's how Ludwig took down Tyler1. So if you enjoyed this breakdown, let me know in the comments below, and let me know if you learned something about some Street Fighter 6. And thank you so much for watching. Peace.